Big Warhammer models can be intimidating to paint, but they don't have to be. In this video I give you some tips on how you can paint things like this Tyranid Psychophage to a tabletop ready level in only a few hours. There is no denying it. Larger models can be kinda scary to paint, but there are some ways to make the whole process a little more pleasant and perhaps more importantly, get them painted quicker. One of the biggest hurdles with painting larger models can be the daunting prospect of how much you have ahead of you. As a result, I think one of the best things you can do is to get the bigger areas done sooner. This will help you feel like you are making quick progress, giving you more confidence to move forward and help you visualize a more complete looking model. As such, when I was painting this Tyranid, I covered all of the fleshy skin areas first. I follow the steps I normally do when painting High Fleet Kraken, but pushed the skin to a bit of a lighter, colder looking finish, just for the sake of experimentation. If you would like to know my recipe for painting High Fleet Kraken, make sure to check out my video on the topic that will be linked in a card above. Once I'm done with all the skin, I can start adding some of the details and adding washes, which means it is really starting to feel like it's coming to life. I use the airbrush quite a bit on this model, not only for its speed, but also for the ability to evenly cover larger areas. It also meant that on the tentacles, I did not have to spend ages with wet blending or glazing to get a nice transition of colour. Choosing my tools carefully really allows me to maximise my efficiency. Now that isn't to say without an airbrush you can't paint fast. Of course you can. For instance, another great tool for painting large models is the dry brush. Dry brushing highlights can really speed things up, especially on models like this that have a high level of varying details. You can either use the dry brush to apply all your highlights, or you could do a general covering with it and then push the highlights further by picking out specific points with a detail brush. Doing this would allow you to direct attention across your model, so perhaps use this technique specifically on the face and other areas you want people to focus on. If you are finding this video interesting at all, I would just like to say thank you and maybe ask you to consider pressing the like button. It really makes a difference to the video's performance and it allows me to know what types of videos my audience is finding interesting. Also, whilst you're down there, if you want to see more of my videos appearing in your subscription feed, consider subscribing. It is free after all. Applying washes can often be seen as a magic way to bring out details on a model. And whilst it is true that slapping on some Agrax Earthshade or Nuln Oil can make a big difference, I want to discourage you from using them to swamp whole areas and really think about the colours that you are using. When it came to adding more contrast to each panel of carapace on this Psychophage, instead of washing all of the plates, I only applied some to the point they meet, so that I was not tinting the most raised areas. I also thought about the colours that were being used for the wash. I'd already used Caliban green and purple on this miniature, and both of these colours go quite nicely with red. So what I did was mix the contrast paints Dark Angels green and Magos purple. I then applied it in between each piece of carapace, kind of like panel lining. Then, to avoid harsh tide marks, I got some water on my brush and diluted the edges of where the wash was applied so that it blended into the red nicely. On the bloated skin of the abdomen, I used a combination of purple and sepia washes as they help to suggest that the skin is distressed and stretched, rather than just dirty. Using washes this way to help tell the story of the miniature can really make the different sections stand apart and be more convincing. If you know ahead of time how you are going to be painting your mini, have a look at priming options. For instance, I know that I paint my neck wands using a lot of Xandri dust. Citadel actually has a spray can of that, so I can skip the base coating step by just priming the miniatures with that can. So do a bit of looking about and you may be able to find a primer that matches the predominant colour of your minis. I hope you found these tips useful, thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.